I wouldn't say many of my people, my friends made it. They're either dead in prison or they're still involved in certain things. When you get involved in postcode war, you can't even leave a couple streets down. You knew nothing but M15. Primark, that's all I knew. I never had a second choice. Before I went in prison, I was a very fat kid. My street name was Chubbs. I've got 9 co-defenders. All of them are doing life sentences. So that's the sort of level of crime we're talking about. The first thing you need to do to understand an individual, understand their upbringing. Was it that led them to that path? It's not like a manual book when you go prisoner. This is how you get through the days. After I got stabbed, I wanted to give up the culture, the lifestyle.
You did banged up as well.
I played one of the biggest characters on the show. I don't need motivation. I strive off pain. I've turned my life around. I've lost time. Even though it's 6 months, but I know what it feels like when someone's control of your freedom. Sunday smoke. 2 random people to settle a fight in the rink. It's not bipolar disorder. It's being possessed, being around demons. Anyone who's involved in crime is a great business person. There was a trial of blood, and then when the police came, they arrested me for murder. They thought I did it.
Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast, and this episode is proudly brought to you by Betovo. Before we get stuck into this week's episode, we're going to give a big shout out to our sponsors.
This season's podcast is brought to you by Superstar Speakers Events. They are the UK's #1 destination for exclusive live experiences. These guys don't just put on events, they deliver unforgettable nights with some of the biggest names in sports, entertainment and beyond. From jaw-dropping Q&A sessions to meet and greets and unmissable stage interviews, they bring you face-to-face with the icons you love. Whether it's football legends spilling the secrets of the beautiful game or entertainment stars sharing untold stories, Superstar Speakers knows how to create memories that last a lifetime. And here's the big news. I'll be teaming up with them for an evening with Terry Stone, a live tour you won't want to miss. Head over to superstarspeakers.co.uk for dates, details and tickets. Massive thanks to Superstar Speakers for supporting our podcast. Please go check out their up-and-coming events now and book yourself a night to remember. Click on the link below and get involved. Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast. My name's Terry Stone and we've got a special guest. You've probably seen Banged Up, and if you haven't, you must go and check it out. We've got Yusef B, aka Yusef Pro PT. He's a celebrity trainer. He's an ex-gang member from Tottenham. He's got a great story. He's an entrepreneur now. So I want you to all put your hands together for Yusef. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah, baby.
My brother. We got Terry Stone.
Yes. So, no, thanks for coming on, Yusef. And obviously, I'm really keen to go a little bit into your story.
Yeah.
I take it you was born in Tottenham.
Born in Tottenham, raised in London. Spent my childhood there until I came out of prison, and then from there, I wanted to channel my life into experiencing another side of London. London's basically where I'm from.
So when you grew up in Tottenham, I had fond memories of Tottenham in the 90s because I was do events on the Tottenham High Road. So what year was you born?
Born 96, so I'm 27, turning 28, literally a couple of months.
And what was it like growing up there? Did you have a big family or?
So my mum and dad both came over from Italy. My dad's Algerian from North Africa. He migrated into Italy, and then he was an immigrant in the UK. Basically smuggled himself into the country, brought my mum over, and they basically raised us in Tottenham. So I'll say throughout my childhood, my dad was in and out of our life up until he had his 4th child, which is his daughter. Both of my mum, so I've got 2 brothers and a sister. And I'll say he tried his best to not just survive in the UK, but also raise kids with discipline, with faith, and they had their own personal problems, mum and dad, which I would say with anyone who experiences, whether it's child trauma or, if you come from parents who start clashing, it really starts to have an effect on a child. And then where my dad has so many disadvantages from no passport, no rights to work, no rights to stay in the UK, he went to prison, And my mum, obviously being a foreign person as well, even though she's from Italy, very different culture, different outlooks of life. And
I bet the food was good though.
the food, yeah? The food, you know what, yeah? Funny enough you say that. Like, even yesterday I went to an Italian restaurant. I'm not really keen into the Italian food.
Now, do you know something? I'm quarter Italian.
Oh,
right?
yeah?
And all I remember, like from any of my Italian family that I went to see, it was always about the food. And
Really,
that's
yeah?
why I thought, you was gonna. Like,
you know what?
We had a shit upbringing, but the food was great.
You know when the food got great? When my mum started to cook cultural food.
Right.
So for me, yeah, even though I'm half Italian, half Algerian, I embrace more the Algerian side, I'll say, because of the culture. I feel like the Italian culture's slowly fading into the Western society.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
And and I've never been to Algeria,
yeah.
but what's the food like?
Amazing.
'Cause I love
It's,
food.
it's Middle East food. So I would say it's
Amazing.
very seasoned, slow cooked. So they got slow cooked dishes.
Yeah.
You will see your auntie or your grandma cooking from the day before, seasoning from the day before. So it's not like you get a pan, you get 3 ingredients and you try to cook it. It's slow cooked food or keep food in the oven for hours. And
So it's melt in your mouth.
yeah,
you get all
literally
the-
like finger licking basically. That's what I call it. So my mum actually started to cook cultural food.
Yeah.
And then I'll say that's when the food side of thing got really bad. But you know what, even today, yeah, I ate a pop noodle and literally pulled up at a pet station and then I was just craving it. And whilst I was eating it, I remember the days where pop noodles is what my parents used to feed us because we couldn't afford to buy normal food. Right. And even when we had like pop noodles, I remember my mum, like, if she had a bit of meat, she'll get a steak, yeah, and she'll literally overcook that steak with oil, like olive oil or butter, and then she will place it on the bread, and then she'll feed us bread that tastes like lamb because of the seasoning of the lamb, but there won't be enough lamb to feed us all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's the sort of background where we come from. Very humbling.
Wow.
I would say very, in a way, we did what we had, but we were always grateful. Yeah. So like,
thing is, lots of people that are either listening or watching this podcast will probably never, ever have experienced that. And if they have, then they obviously know where you're coming from. But growing up, on an estate is hard anyway. But actually, like you said, your dad can't work, your mum and dad are clashing. And I take it your dad had to, go in at crime to put food on the table.
He never actually got involved in crime that we can relate to. The stuff he had to do was more so like just avoiding legal stuff.
Right.
Because he's an immigrant. He's from North Africa. They weren't giving him the rights to stay in the country. Even though he did time in prison for many other things, when it came to him being an adult and being a father, for him was mainly like he just couldn't get a job because he ain't got the paperwork to get a job. So if he's working, he's working black-handed. Very frustrating, very hard. And also like always looking behind your shoulders. Very hard to trust people. And leaving a woman behind in the country with kids and being deported, trying to get yourself back into the UK.
That's actually what happened to him.
That's what happened to him, yeah. He got deported a few times. And he always managed to get through. He's a very street smart person, very, very intelligent. And his form of hustle is very old school. It's market trade. So he's very like buy and sell. And that's where a lot of my entrepreneurial, I'll say, mindset and experience comes from, because from a very early age, he used to take us to the market and he used to basically give us $5 or whatever, and he'll be like, look, you can't leave the market until you flip the money, have made money. So we've never grown up to be consumers, and I think this is a big part
lesson.
of very good lesson, very, very good lesson. And we're not consumers. Like even now, the way me and my brothers live, we don't buy into things. We're not sold. You can't sell us nothing, but we're great salespeople. We can sell anything, and we can learn to adapt into any environment. So I think a big trait of that came from my father. But then a big part of me, myself, a big discovery of myself was obviously my faith, which came, my mum's a revert, which meant she came from Christianity. She became Muslim. My dad was Muslim. But my mum was a big motivation for me into understanding the importance of faith, the importance of God, praying, charity, giving back. So my mum embedded that in us from a very young age, and we carried it. And knowing her and her background and the struggles she faced, even just from being a revert, her parents, being Italian, Catholics and stuff, they didn't really accept the change in her. And she went all in, so she even covered up in a certain way where her family didn't even see her or recognize her. When they saw her after a very long time, they didn't recognize, like, whoa, like, is that our daughter?
What have you done to her daughter?
But it was the best thing she's ever experienced, and it's the best thing that I say that helped me throughout my journey. And I wouldn't say I really embraced it until I went in prison, because throughout the childhood where my parents are going through what they're going, the first thing we did, because we're in a cancer state and we're around the boys and stuff, we're easily led into stuff where we're, I say, groomed or influenced into committing stuff that at the time seemed normal, seemed okay. And because it was so glamorized back then, it's like you would do it because you wanted to be part of that status. You wanted to...
Do you know what's really interesting? We've had a couple of barristers and a couple of law enforcement people come on a podcast.
Amazing.
And they've all said, you know, the issue, the whole of England, not just London faces, is that, you know, you've got these kids that are growing up in a council estate. They haven't got a lot. Sometimes they don't have a father figure. Like you said, you know, your dad was deported. So you know, you sort of relied on your mum. And then, like you said, you didn't have enough food to put on the table. And then you walk out on the estate and there's someone driving around in a nice car, nice watch, nice necklace, you know, flashing cash. And you're like, I want that. And it's very easy, like you said, to be groomed, to be led, and to fit in, to be accepted. And you know, they become your family.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. You create actually an amazing brotherhood, to the point where it gets tricky when people get killed throughout that process, or your mates start getting locked up. And these are the people you used to depend on. Like, these are the people you literally ride out for. You would do anything for. You would stand in front of a weapon and protect your mate for the sake of the love that you had for them. And I've experienced and I've gone through that. You know,
was it always in Tottenham, or did you like bounce around London? Because I know there was
always stayed in Tottenham until I went in prison, pretty much. So it wasn't until after that I really experienced London. I never knew much about London, unless our dad took us.
Tottenham was it.
And you know what's crazy? Yeah, when you get involved in postcode war, you can't even leave a couple streets down because of the paranoia.
Well, someone told me, I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but someone said to me, if you are in the wrong place at the wrong time, you will get stabbed.
100%. And
or
it's
shot
not,
or whatever.
And I say, even if you look like you're from the culture, if you're just entering another council or going to another area, you don't even need to have any problems with them, but because you look like you're from the culture, you're getting into some sort of commotion because they're asking where you're from. And then it's just a way of like proving to the other person, like, we run this area, or this is our street, this is our postcode, what are you doing here? So we quickly adapted that mindset, which was quite hard to break out of.
You didn't go out, basically. You stayed
in
15.
And you knew nothing. You knew nothing but M15. And that's probably one of the biggest risk I took at a young age. Once I come out of prison, it was not until like I got stabbed twice after I come out of prison, 2 different occasions, and I wanted to start a new career for myself. I fell in love with fitness and working out, because before I went in prison, I was a very fat kid. My street name was Chubbs.
Right.
So I was known to be...
You should have told me at the start.
Yeah. We try to keep that one there to the side. But yeah, like being known as Chubbs, when I come out of prison, like people were very impressed by my transformation. Yeah. And it was just...
I've seen you on that treadmill. I definitely wouldn't want to upset you because I'm not going to be able to run away.
Forget the treadmill. You wouldn't want to upset me in general, man. Like outside my childhood and the person I was and the way I used to channel my energy or my problems or my, let's say, struggles was through violence.
Do you think that, you know, because you obviously struggled for food and, you know, you had it hard, do you think that sort of just made you angry inside? And that's why you channeled it, because otherwise you'd end up...
I'll say the anger aspect was understanding certain things that my parents faced together, certain really deep problems that when I realised at a young age that my parents weren't working out, but my mum made me sort of the father figure of the house, and I became very independent, but also someone who took that father figure amongst my brothers, and I felt the need to always protect them. I'm not the only child. My brothers got involved in other things, and I was always the person who was like ready to stand up for them.
So you was the eldest, yeah?
Nah, second. So
Wow.
me and my older brother were 9 months, 2 weeks apart. So we're basically Irish twins, if you know what that is. We're born in the same year. So
Irish, Algerian, Italian twins.
It's called Irish twins when you get 2 kids born in the same year. Have you not heard of it?
No.
Really?
Love
Irish
this.
twins.
It's great.
So if you're both born in the same year, it's called Irish twins.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we're 9 months, 2 weeks apart. So my mum had him, and then 2 weeks later got pregnant and had me.
Wow.
Yeah, so he wasn't really the same as me, if that makes sense. But he also got involved in a lot of stuff. And as he was my brother, I would say until we went in prison, even when I was in prison, a big part to why I went in prison as well was because I wanted to stay with him and protect him and look after him as well. He's very different, he handles things very differently, but I took that responsibility from a young age to really deal with situations quite elderly, if that makes sense, like quite mature, in a very mature way. But at the same time, I was very overprotective. And then obviously I had my mates in the streets where if anything happened to them, I was that person that people used to rely on. And I still feel like I'm that character now, even though I've changed my roots, but within work, within business.
You're still in Tottenham now?
No. I've moved out a very long time. If anything, I've experienced the side of London that most people will like get a bus or drive by these houses and look at it and be like, wow, I wish I lived there. And I managed to live in a mansion, you know what I mean? So these are things that, again, if it wasn't for what I went through and what I saw,
I think it's great
and what I lived up to.
Because lots of people that have the hand that you was dealt and brought up on the estate and get involved in crime and, postcode stuff, they end up either dead or in jail. So the fact that you've actually gone through that process and now you're cracking on and you're an entrepreneur and you're doing all these great things, I think I was actually having this conversation earlier with somebody about, the only way that we can change the UK is by actually having people that have been through it that can actually mentor people and say, listen, guys, this is fucking stupid. This isn't the way you want to be because this is where you're going to end up. You know what I mean? And re-educate them. I know it sounds, like
cliche, but it works. But it does work in certain aspects.
Because people aren't, if I went around estates talking to young kids going, oh, you shouldn't do crime because you're going to get out of jail, they're going to go, shut up, what do you fucking know? But somebody who's actually been through the life, that's done it, that they can relate to, they're more likely to listen to. And I think the problem with the working classes and people that don't have a particularly good hand, they get into this trap, right, where they think they can't achieve anything. They're not worthy. They're not in that world, so they have to sort of stay in their lane. And I think that, if you actually look at you as an example, look at me, I'm from working class as well, from a council estate. If you apply yourself, you work hard, you're entrepreneurial, and you don't mind having a hustle, you can actually get off the estate and you can actually achieve greatness. And when I say greatness, I don't mean, you're a billionaire, but I mean,
But why not?
No, but what I mean is when you talk about being a billionaire, people go, I'm never going to get there. But the thing is, if you said to somebody who lived in a council flat about being a millionaire, they go, I'm never going to be a millionaire. So the fact that they can get off the estate and they can actually earn good money and they can do it legitimately.
Of course.
But they need to be told that, they need to be inspired by people that have gone through that process.
You know what I've realised? Like, anyone who's involved in crime is a great business person because you've got all the skill sets, you're just not channeling it into the right areas. And the advantage that a criminal has to make money in a non-legitimate way is that they always have to think more than a normal person because they're not just trying to buy and sell. So they got to have that skill set or be a leader to have someone to buy and someone to sell, or is that they basically have to also have the mindset to never get caught and use the skill sets to never get caught. So imagine the mindset and the experience and the methods they got to use. If they now did something legitimate and took away the fear side of getting caught, they'll be more successful than an average person. Because all the average person's got to do is basically buy and sell, or lead, for example.
So there was a guy who I got in touch with, who, through a mutual friend, who was in Manchester, my side, and this guy infiltrated American Express and basically impersonated the Crown Prince of Brunei, stole £20 million worth of diamonds. And we made a film about it, and it's a great movie called Plastic. And there was no violence, there was no, it was all just literally phones, and it was all sort of, it was like a big con sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But what I thought was great about it was the only reason he got caught was because they used a pay-as-you-go phone, and where they bought the pay-as-you-go phone from was cameras,
yeah.
So that's what they got caught. But if that phone hadn't gone out, so what happened was the phone went out of battery, and then what happened was they then got somebody else's phone to ring one of the pay-as-you-go phones. So they then went, okay, so and then they tracked it back, and that's how they got them caught. But the barrister, I mean, they only did like 3 or 4 years. It was £20 million worth of diamonds. But the barrister actually said, if these guys had applied what they were doing criminally to business, they could have been billionaires.
Absolutely.
And it's a thing. It's sort of like where these people have that mindset. People would say it's a criminal mindset. It's actually not. It's a money mindset.
Yeah,
and you can either use it for good or for bad.
Absolutely.
Or maybe that's the good and that's the bad. I don't know.
At this rate, especially the way the world's going right now, I feel like everything's bad, but you choose what your bad is, innit?
But I think I agree.
Because even the legal way, there's so much bullshit that goes on with it. Just be a good person.
I think the problem
don't take from people. Don't steal. Give charity. Whatever you're gonna do, you'll be blessed. At the end of the day, God is in control of anything that you're blessed with.
But I think
that's my belief.
I think what you're saying about the badness. I was trying to put my finger on it the other day. Like if you talk to anybody, it doesn't matter if they're rich, middle, poor, working class, middle class. It doesn't matter. Everybody. I think there's lots of bad stuff happening. I was saying to a friend of mine earlier. There's I know 10 people in the last month that have either had their house burgled, their car stolen, their watch taken, the wife said her bag stolen, but just, it's crimes, you just think that's in the last month, and it does just feel, is that what you were sort of getting at?
No, what I was basically saying is that a criminal is a great business person because, like I said to you, if they've always got a way of not getting caught, they don't need to worry about that when they're doing something legitimate. But if they can succeed in the criminal perspective of making money, then they got to use a different part of their brain, which is.
Do you think they will though? Because it seems now that, like, if you commit a crime now, there's so many people doing it, and there's obviously not enough police, and there's not enough resources to actually catch them. So do you think that because I know when I was growing up, the crimes were post office, banks, vans, it was like sort of them sort of robberies. There wasn't really that many street robberies. There wasn't really that many burglaries. But then obviously as times change, it seems now that, if people can go out and take someone's watch,
But there's a lot more than just those sort of crimes that you just described right now. Crimes that I was involved in, which I was never caught.
Right.
Does that make sense? Severe crimes.
So when you obviously went into, or you didn't go into it, but you was obviously, like you said, groomed into it.
Yeah.
What was the sort of stuff that, when they started grooming you on the estate, what was the stuff that the low level stuff to get you sort of?
For me, everyone knew me for violence. So anything I got involved in was violence related. So I'll be paid or I'll be easily involved into something that involved violence. And then once I gained my trust, my respect, the crimes just kept getting bigger and bigger.
So was it initially just like beating people up and then it went one step further?
It can literally be anything just to make sure if there was a delay on a transaction or someone was mistreated in a certain way, or it meant taking something from someone but they weren't trying to, communicate in a certain way or respond correctly, then I'll be that person that was mainly involved in that sort of things.
You was like an enforcer then, essentially people would literally ring you up and go, Yusef, he hasn't paid, or
It
he's
wasn't
late.
honestly anything to do with violence. So I was never found guilty for any of the crimes that I was arrested for. Even when I went in prison, I was on remand, and I was only on remand for 6 months, and that's the time I spent in custody. I've got 9 co-defenders. All of them are doing life sentences.
Wow.
So that's the sort of level of crime we're talking about. That was around.
So was it drugs, or was it just everything?
Literally everything and anything. And you can't just... It can start off with sometimes an argument, or sometimes it can start off with a debt, or it can start off with disrespect. That's the sort of level of crime that violence can be led into.
So
Does that make sense?
So with disrespect, what would be disrespect? Somebody saying something, or
A form of disrespect can be someone saying something wrong, someone disrespecting a sibling, a sister, someone not paying up. That sort of level of disrespect.
And would you say, like, the violence that was dished out was justified, or would you say it was excessive?
I wouldn't say any of it is justifiable. None of it. I think the only justifiable violent that I would stand for would be if someone disrespected any sort of female member from a very, let's say, sexual perspective.
Got it.
Does that mean that's the only sort of justifiable, or even like, for example, those are the sort of things that I don't stand for and I would never stand for. But I think all the other stuff didn't always had to lead to the sort of violence that we all get ourselves involved in.
Yeah, because I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying that they went along. So his friend had a problem with somebody, and they went along just
Joint enterprise,
and it went off. The guy got killed.
Then
and they both had life sentences.
Of course,
and he said, I was just standing
wasn't
there.
there. Yeah, I've seen all of that as well. Yeah, I've seen that.
Why do you? I mean, you said earlier about the glamour. Do you think that, when people do get involved in these street gangs and they get involved in these postcode things, do you think they actually think it's cool if they actually do stab someone or kill someone? Do you think?
You know what? It's very hard to say because I was involved in it and I was also stabbed myself. It doesn't always start as something that's glamorizing. Sometimes it starts off from being disrespected, and then because someone's carrying something, all of a sudden you're carrying something. Because
you think it's more of a, when you're in that life, you've got to be prepared in case.
It's defense, but then you do get the people who just do it for the sake of, they want to know what it feels like. It's weird. I remember before I got involved with that sort of level of crime was like, what does it feel like? You question the people who have done it. Like, what does it feel like? So I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about now, especially as I've grown out to it. But back then, I remember questioning my mate, like, what does it feel like to be stabbed? Or what does it feel like to stab someone? Or what does it feel like to carry a gun? As kids, we grow up.
And what was their responses? What was the sort of stuff they said?
I want to say a huge thanks to our sponsors, Fragrance du Bois. Now, for those of you that don't know about Fragrance du Bois, where have you been? It is one of the leading luxury fragrances, only available in Harrods, Selfridges and Neiman Marcus in New York. They've got so many different fragrances for men, for women. All of the fragrances are unisex, so make sure you get involved and sample the delights of Fragrance du Bois. For all the Criminal Connection podcast crew, we've got a special discount for you. 10% off. All you need to do when you click on the link below and choose your luxury fragrance is to put in CCPOD10 for the 10% discount.
From my point of view, at the time you don't know. You don't really have an answer. I think a big part of it is like, that's what you know. If you give a kid something at a young age, they just don't know. They're just used to doing something you've given them. It's not until you grow up. Now looking back on it, I couldn't believe the sort of level of things that I was doing when it came to involving violence. Like right now, if I look at it, I try to prevent it. Even like on my way here, I see a group of kids, they were like standing at the bus stop, and one of the kids was getting headlocked. And at least I had to speak up and say, look, let go of the kid. They might have been joking around, but that level of bullying for me is like, I don't tolerate it. Like I can't not stop myself from telling the kid, stop bullying someone else when I see it now. But back then, you just don't know. For you, it's either a laugh or you've been bullied, so now you want to prove to yourself, it's like you're doing it to validate yourself that you're no longer going to take nothing from no one in a certain way where you're going to rebel now. You know, I've seen that aspect. Or that's all you know. You were born for this. You were born for the violent side of things. I would sit down with certain friends of mine that will commit that sort of level of crime, and I've sat down with them in prison and stuff, and they'll be like, I didn't even do it. They've done it, but they didn't do it. Like, it was like a possession of a demon inside them, or like a second spirit that lives with them, and they will call it the demon time. Like, it was a part of their life where they're not even in control of themselves.
We're having this again with a lot of the things we're talking. We've also been discussing today, with different people, and a guy who was on earlier was actually saying, you know, how do we actually solve this? Because it is a problem, right? Like you said, you've been through it and you've come out the other side and you've turned your life around. But for all those people that haven't and are doing life sentences in jail, you know, how do you think what can the country do to?
You know, I don't believe I've turned my life around. I don't believe. See, when you're looking for a change or a turn, you're expecting a shift. The shift starts from within yourself, and it's literally just thought process. It's like right and wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like left and right. That's all it is. I'm not a changed person. I am still the same kid. I will never grow out of the person. I will never rub off my life experiences on my part. I will never get rid of it. It will never come out of my mind. I will never forget about it. But I've had to make decisions now differently.
But you think
people that look for a change or people look for a solution, they're expecting like there's one thing or there's something.
Do you think it's the education, and do you think that people need to be empowered to say you don't need to do this, you can do this, and actually give them a tool so that they have that opportunity? Because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are missing on these estates. They haven't got the opportunities and they have no hope, so they end up going down that wrong road. I don't know if you think that would...
I think it's very different for everyone. For example, I do a lot of talks now. I go into prisons and I work with a lot of offenders, ex-offenders. Even just like a couple of weeks ago, I was in Belmarsh, and that's a Cat A prison. The sort of level of crime that people are committing there are basically looking at life sentences. And I was sat there with a group of like 60 of them, and I got invited there to do a talk. There was other people in this organisation, and weirdly, no one found anyone else relatable but me. Maybe because of my age, again, being part of the culture. My mates who I grew up with were in that course, who are there for murder. My co-defenders are in that prison. And this was something that was committed about 12, 13 years ago, but they're still in there and they've got 30 years for it. And they know me through my cold ease and
when you talk
culture.
to them now, Yusef, what are they like? Are they remorseful? Do they want to get out and you know, go on a different path, or are they quite happy to go back to?
So there's different groups. The group that we were involved in are usually the people who sign up for a course like this, which is all about change. So they clearly are there hoping they want to change when they come out. They want to know, is there more to life? Will they have a second chance? Do they get the possibility to make a change? So when you speak to these people, it's weird. Throughout me telling my story, when I received feedback from the governor of the prison and just speaking to a few of the inmates, everyone took different part of my journey to be like, that's what's going to make me want to change. Some people took the faith aspect. So for me, like, devote myself to my religion at 15 and being in prison, really being strict to my faith. Some people are like, wow, I'm going to use that. Someone else took the fact that when I spoke about channeling criminal skill sets into legal skill sets, they're like, well, I can do that because you made it make sense to me now. You said you used to buy or consign something and then sell it. Well, now you're telling me you're doing it with legitimate stuff like your fragrance. So now I can do that because I know I'm very confident in buying and selling. So that person said to me, well, that's going to give me hope and change. Someone else was like, now that I get paid to fight in a boxing ring, someone else who was heavily involved in violence and used to use his physical body to, rebel or channel his pain into violence. Now it's like, well, I can go to the gym and dedicate my training routine because now I'm in my cell. I'm training 4 or 5 hours a day. I can now come out and would rather dedicate my training into a gym where I can now get paid to fight. Do you understand? So it was like, throughout me telling my story and my journey, the response from these 60 offenders are like, well, I can relate to this or I can take this, but this bit has helped me now channel, not really change because they're not looking for much change. So I don't really think there's a specific way. I think each individual is different. I think the first thing you need to do to understand an individual is to understand their upbringing and to understand what was it that led them to that path.
So you think it's a more bespoke approach depending on the person?
Depending on the person. And also depending on the person's outcome, what they want. I know criminals that enjoy crime will happily keep going back to doing crime. Yeah. Yesterday I met a homeless lady on the train.
Do you know something? I haven't met yet.
Yeah.
I've only met one person actually.
Yeah.
Who's been a criminal and done a long time in jail. And when I said, would you change anything? I went, no, I can do it all over again.
Yeah.
I love it. But that was the only one. It's very rare to find people that just want to keep going to prison.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, yesterday I met a homeless lady. She's just done 4 weeks. She just came out not long ago. And when I said to her, like, if you need anything or what would you want? I said to her, would you rather be here in prison? She said, no, I'd rather be dead. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's hopeless. She's 37. She's got kids, not seen her kids for a very long time. She's living in the streets. She was recalled, so she went back to prison. She's been in and out of prison. She feels hopeless. And all she wanted was a few bit of change to, buy drugs. And she kept it very honest with us. And I wanted to try to help her, but you meet people like that and see to break someone like that.
No hope is there for her.
There is hope. And I think the hope aspect is you need to shadow that person, but who's patient enough to be side by side?
But that's what I mean. There's no hope for her, as in if somebody doesn't do what you're suggesting, where they actually put it one man and go, right, we're going to get you off for drugs, we're going to help you. If you leave her to her own devices, she will probably end up dead.
But also, the element of support she needs is literally like a married couple. Like, you need to be side by side, because not only do you have to be side by side with this person, you need to understand this person. This person here, for example, just this woman here, she's got a coping mechanism. For a woman to be homeless and to be sleeping in the street, she's tough. She's very, very, very strong. Because they're very vulnerable people. Do you know what I mean? And to put yourself in a position where you're going to sleep, actually be able to rest your head and fall asleep, no matter how much intoxication you do, there's still an aspect of a woman, like, she's thinking she can be harmed, or she has been harmed, where now she's numb to it, meaning she's been assaulted by a man, that now she's numb to it, that she's fearless to be sleeping in the streets. So when you're going to support her, you need to understand, how is this woman going to respond by me being a support? Is she still going to have that? Because you can't reverse, you can't take off her traumas and her life experiences that led her there and what she had to do to survive there.
Did she share them with you, Yusef?
She was getting into it. Sadly, she was getting into it, but she had a couple stops to get off the train, and she was more focused and more concerned about the drugs she was going to buy now. That because I gave her a bit of money, she was more concerned about getting off the train on time. And she was just like excited now that, do you know what I mean? She was ready to feed her cravings. At the time when I gave her the money, I didn't know she was going to buy the drugs, but after a while, she quickly said, oh, look, anyways, I'm only going to buy drugs. I'm going to numb this, because it's like she wanted help and she really opened up to us. But once we started breaking her down, her head was like, yo, I've got what I needed anyways. This is what I'm going to do right now, because that's the only thing that's going to get her through the night. I started a homeless charity a few years ago, and I was heavily involved in one. And I learned a lot about them. And when I came out of prison, there was a 2-year patch where I still stayed at my mum's house and in a estate in the area. And it wasn't until I got basically married at 18, I went through a marriage and divorce in the space for like 6 months. That in that period there, after I got stabbed twice, I wanted to give up the culture, the lifestyle. I did a PT course at the time. I actually became homeless and lived in the disabled toilets in the gym that I was living in. The mindset that I had to do that was, when I wanted to become a personal trainer, I wanted to become the best personal trainer. When I do something, I do it 100%. So my obsession, and because I was finally given an opportunity by, you know, a manager at the gym to not make me be a personal trainer, I was literally just a cleaner at the gym where I would do like 3 hours to work there in return to do personal training. They gave me the facility to train clients, but I had no clients. I walked into a room unexperienced, had no understanding in personal training or how to provide a service. And I felt like if I didn't start working for free and I didn't give to people, give back or create a community out of this environment, that I won't be accepted, or I wasn't good enough, or I'll be judged by my past, or I'll be judged by the way I looked. So I went out there and I really studied the game. I went online, I was Googling what's the highest paid personal training job. And the reason why I looked for the highest paid, because I thought if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it at the best level. All the gyms in the areas had different rates. But again, my mindset, I remember, was like, Google, what's the highest paid personal trainer job? I find an area where when I walked into that area, I looked at the houses, I'm like, this is crazy. That's where hope. This is where I got to be, yeah? So you got to understand this now, from being a cleaner to working for free to giving up my family, because I went literally from one area to another area. And it wasn't as easy as that. I used to use a motorbike for transport, which I had multiple accidents. In the space of 3 months, I had 3 accidents where I was pretty much diagnosed paralyzed on my right side of my body. It was through these accidents I was having. They couldn't really understand what was going on in my body. My nerve system was just switching off. And I wouldn't take drugs. I wouldn't take any medication. I was just carrying on working to the point where after that happened, after being stabbed, after losing my cousin, he went to prison for a crime that I was very close to get myself involved in. And all of that, and just a breakup and all that pain, I just channeled it into like, I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm 18. All my, say, school friends went to uni. They're broke. They have loads of debts, but they committed into something which was educational, that they hope to get a job out of it. My other mates are in prison or dead. So I thought my path is, well, I've been to prison, so I know what it's like to sleep in a shit room. So I can get a sleeping bag and sleep in the disabled toilets in the gym. As long as I'm here, though, I've got the chance and an opportunity to show my side of myself, where I was really passionate and really loved helping people at that point. I really wanted to give back. And that was one of the clause that the judge gave me at the court, was I had to give back to the community. I had to do something to keep me out of prison. I had to give back. So for me, with having that job there, being a cleaner, I was a really good cleaner. But everything I did, I wanted to become the best. So when I was ready to make the transition and become the personal trainer I wanted to become, I became the best personal trainer. So within a year of being homeless for 6 months, within a year, I went from training people for free, giving back, creating a community culture, running free classes, and planting my seeds in the right area where I wanted to be in. I looked at the houses, I looked at the clientele. Once I built a high demand for myself, I went from being broke to earning 6 figures very, very quickly.
Amazing.
Does that make sense? I'm building a brand for myself. And at the time, I never showed my face. I literally built an Instagram page. I gave back, trained people for free.
What does it say on your Instagram page?
Pro PT, not your average kid. I'm not your average kid. And that whole mindset was through that. And that was just for me providing a service.
Just so people can find you.
Yeah. And honestly, the levels that I took personal training, I became one of the best personal trainers in the country. BBC spotted it. They wrote an article. I had the documentary put together. I had an interview with them multiple times for being an ambassador for mental health, being the #1 trainer in the country, training reality TV stars, influencers, models. And this was all literally from that path and that journey, that 360 that I wanted to make. But nothing really, I would say, made me change. Like, there was nothing out there that I could hold on to. I had no role models, no mentor, no guidance. It was
that's what's
purely
so remarkable about you,
Yeah.
that you've actually done it yourself.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? And that just really should be an inspiration to anybody who's having a hard time, or anybody who's down on the luck, to go, look, he was homeless. He had nothing. He had no role. He had no handouts. He had to do it himself, but he did it. Do you know what I mean? So,
You know what was lucky for me? Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, what was lucky? I think what's good about me is I don't need motivation. I'm the weird one. I strive of pain. I strive of problems. I always look for the worst of situations. Sometimes I always put myself in the worst situations. Do you understand? My upbringing wasn't, you had two choices, which choice you're going to take. No, I only had one choice. And you got to make good use out of the only choice you had. So when it was crime, that's all I knew. I never had a second choice. I never wanted to be in school. I was never really accepted in school. I struggled in school. You know, I couldn't read and write. I wasn't appreciated. I wasn't loved. I wasn't cared. I wasn't the chosen kid. Does that make sense? But in anything else, apart from that, I was amazing, respected in the streets. You know, the older lots, you know, grew me into things that they were like, yo, you know, Chubbs is the guy for this. Like, he's the man for this. And the element of respect grew very, very quickly. And people quickly noticed me and started to build a community amongst the wrong things and the wrong people.
Did you then get upgraded? Was you then Don Chubbsione?
Never done. I was always just Chubbsy.
Right.
Just Chubbs.
Yeah.
But the mindset stayed the same.
Got it.
See, now I don't do anything I don't want to do. Yeah. I don't fake it. I don't pretend to be someone I'm not. I wouldn't put myself in an environment and try to adapt. Unless I know I want to be there or I can leverage or I can learn, I will still put myself in very uncomfortable positions. Yeah. You know, I don't know if you saw my Instagram. I ran from Cambridge to London.
That's a long way.
I ran from Brighton to London, 60 miles.
Wow.
You know, I did that in 12 hours with no training. That's the sort of character I am. So I don't look for motivation. I look for pain.
It's actually quite funny because a lot of people who, a lot of these people that do this sort of motivational speaking or write these books about success, they always say that lots of people don't actually say what the success road is like, and it is pain.
It's pain.
It is hard work. It isn't easy. And I think the danger of social media is people look at it and go, oh, look, I want to do that. But they don't understand the sacrifices, the pain, the work.
If you're looking for motivation, that's the first step to failure. If you're waiting for change or you're expecting there's a solution or there's a turning point, that's you being complete. That's the first stage to failure. The first step to success is the doing. Just do it. And
well, look at Nike. So, that's Nike's thing, isn't it? Just do it.
Just do it. Exactly. And more so embrace the pain. That's the first step to why then people quit. And some people quit before pain. It's the fear of pain. But you look at the successful people, anything that looked successful, see, when I come to these podcasts, I hate talking about my journey and my story because I don't find myself inspirational, motivational, or, you know, maybe relatable for some people, maybe I'll give a bit of hope, but I don't want to sit in these podcasts and like talk about the glamorous and the greatness of things, because I feel like, if anything, if I was watching something like that, I would want to switch it off, because I feel like, well, you're not actually teaching me much. But if you talk to me about pain, if you talk to me about trauma, if you talk to me about, you know, what do I do when I'm feeling pain? What do I do when I'm feeling uncomfortable? How do I channel, you know, the uncomfortable? How do I channel the unknown? Like, tell me a bit more about, you know, faith and mindset and understanding the human. But these are the things that I would say I'm more relatable when I look for, not a solution, but I look for a method or a blueprint to guide me through something that I'm trying out. And more so, even when I'm listening to these people who are giving me guidance, I might use it as a, you know, as a method, but I always end up doing my own thing. Yeah. And my own thing is always following my guts and diving deep into the pain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing I do right now that's very normal. When people look at the things that I've achieved, they expect like a very straightforward formula, but it's like a roller coaster.
But there is no formula. I mean, people always say, like they read these self-help books.
Yeah.
Believe and you receive and all this stuff. You have to believe to receive, but you also have to put in the work.
Absolutely.
And, you know, people always say to me, well, how long does it take? And it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 10 years, right? Nobody knows. You know what I mean? Your journey might be 6 months, my journey might be 3 years. But what tends to happen, and I've seen this all through my life, people get to a certain level, that when it becomes difficult, they give up. They go, I can't do this anymore. Like you said, the pain kicks in. It's like, not for me. And then they walk around going, oh, poor me, poor me. And it's actually quite funny because a good friend of mine called Tom Smith is a motivational speaker. And he always says, like, he does these like conferences and he talks to people. And then when anybody starts saying anything negative, he goes, oh, are you having a pity party? He goes, you're going to your own pity party. He said, there's no time for pity. He said, there's only time for pain. He says, you have to embrace it.
Absolutely.
You have to grab it and you have to go through it. You can't, no one's interested in you going, oh, poor me, poor me. And I actually thought about it and it just made me laugh because I'm sure in your life, when things have got tough, everyone gets self-doubt. Everyone thinks, am I doing the right thing? But like you said, if you keep pushing through, it's not giving up, isn't it?
I think also what helps is faith as well. So when you believe in God, it gives you an outlook of the purpose of life. Nothing actually matters. When you die, don't take nothing with you.
Well, lots of people wonder, does God exist? Is there a God? Which religion's the best? And I always have the same view. There is a God, and your religion might be different than my religion, but it's the same God. It's just that this religion celebrates it that way. This religion celebrates it that way. And for me, I think everybody should have faith, because that we have. People always say that we're on a journey, right? And we've got to go through things, and it's God's plan, And lots of people say, there's lots of people I know who don't believe in God and they don't believe in religion, but I'm actually one of those people that does. And as I said, I don't get into which religion's better or what God's better, but for me, I believe in a supreme being or God or whatever you want. Some people think it's a woman, some think it's a man, but everybody has a different, view on it. But I definitely believe that there is a supreme being that we're all answerable to.
Absolutely. And I think that's the reason why I say it's very important to have faith, because faith gives you hope, and if you can't find motivation or you can't find a formula to something or you can't find answers, then if you found at least God, because God is the unseen, you can't see God, you can't feel God, you can't touch God, you can't call God. Like, when you're praying to the unknown. Whether you believe or not, it's not actually, you can't see it. It's a feeling, it's a personal
belief
thing.
and faith is important.
Very important. Because then it gives you the missing puzzle that most people are missing out on right now in society. Because if you haven't got motivation, at least have faith. Have God, because it gives you a purpose, makes you understand. And it really answers all the questions you've been missing out on. Does that make sense? So I always like to combine the two together. And like you said about your mate who, when he does these motivational speech and these talks and stuff, I've done a few of them as well. And people start giving excuses and stuff. I think these motivational things that we do are great because, sometimes people need it for that split second just to give them a bit of hope. But anyone who depends on motivation or a structured formula or a way, that in itself is someone who's literally completely got self-doubt, lack of belief, and is still looking. They're still not understood it. Does that make sense? They still haven't got it.
Well,
they're still struggling.
I think what was good about this Tom Smith and what he does is, I always thought I was Mr. Positive. I always thought, I did all these things. But then when you actually hear him and he goes through stuff and he says, when I wake up in the morning, this is what I do and this is why I do it. And when you actually follow it, you actually think, well, actually, if I follow that, and his main thing is, the biggest thing in life which trips people up, they get negative thought. They think they're not good enough, or they think that won't work, or they've had a bad day and they think, oh, what's the fucking point? And they just give up. But he said, when you have them thoughts, you've got to literally go away, walk off, don't want that thought, think of something positive. And he said it's all about the frequency you're on. And for me, sort of, it's easier to be positive and happy than it is to be sad. And if you are sad or miserable or depressed, you just go deeper and deeper. It doesn't there is no happy journey on that.
No, of course.
So I think a lot of the stuff that he does, I mean, I've listened to quite a few motivational speakers, and I found him personally. I mean, you should look him up because he's
I
interesting.
probably have come across him. I'm just really bad with names, but I probably have come across him. And look, it would work. It will work for the minute, for the second. You can't always rely on that. Take him away. If I put you now in the prison cell, because I've been in a prison cell, no motivation speakers, no books, no CD players, no TV. What are you going to do then?
There's no TV in prison. I thought it was Xboxes, everything. I thought you got.
Right, but if I put you in a situation when you're blocked,
Yeah.
so you've had the TVs, you've had the CD players, you've had the books, but now I put you in block, none of that. And your mattress gets taken away from you at 8 a.m. in the morning and gets brought back at 8 p.m. What do you do then in those 12 hours when you're not sleeping?
It must be fucking boring.
Nah, do you know what you do?
But I suppose you just think, don't you?
Nah, that's when you realize there's really a creator. And that's when you do the self-talk. Does that make sense? So when you go to that
So when you
sort of
motivate
level of
people,
deep,
Yusuf, is that what you say? You say you need to be on your own, quiet.
it's a solo thing. It's no distraction. It's full of pain. It's accepting, just accept and be present, be in the second, be in the moment. And then from there, start to connect with the creator. Because surely there is a creator. You can't deny the creator. If you're denying the creator, there's going to be a massive curse. A curse in your soul, in your heart, in your mind. And most people who struggle, and you realize a lot of people who have these numb areas or this emptiness or this fear are usually people who are not faithful towards a creator. Does that make sense? They all have some sort of mental problem. They can't find the reasons for it, so they have loads of excuse. Or their health, they don't take care of their health, so they abuse their bodies, or their hearts or their mind. Does that make sense? But if I put you in a room right now and you're in block, it's just you yourself. And I'm glad I was put in that position at a very young age, because that's where I find this strength for me. It's like a deep inner self-belief. And in that moment, when you're in that moment and there's nothing around you, and and you've tried to do the worst of the worst things to end things off, but then nothing's happening, and it's just you yourself, and all of a sudden you start laughing and you start feeling happy and you start smiling, and then you get this confidence and this energy, and it's like, then you realize, where's that come from? Then you know that God is giving you another chance.
And would you say that's really when you had that spiritual enlightenment, when you was in jail?
Absolutely, massively. And it was, again, taking away everything. So now I don't need nothing. I'm humble, I'm happy, and I'm usually happy. I'm at my happiest when I'm going through things. When things are not going well, I'm always thinking, something shady's happening. So what I do, and you'll hear it a lot on my videos, is I always say, stay uncomfortable, even when life gets comfortable. So when life gets uncomfortable, you don't feel uncomfortable. So you don't really make sense to people.
I love that.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So stay uncomfortable when life gets comfortable. So when life gets uncomfortable, you don't feel uncomfortable. So you're never too high, too low. So even when life is good, make things uncomfortable. So I have this principle. I'm a very weird and difficult character to be around. I'm not perfect. Trust me, I still go through a lot. And I still battle a lot. I'm still dealing with a lot. But I've realized whenever I go through things, I just throw myself deeper into a problem. I will restrict myself. I will take things away from me. I will empty my fridge out and not put food, even though I can afford to put food in the fridge. If I'm exercising, I'm taking it to the next level, really embracing the things that I don't want to do. And it's weird, I watched a video literally 2 days ago about David Goggins and this doctor that he got interviewed by, and about his mindset, and about him now realizing there's science proof to what he can do to embrace a suck and the pain, and he called it friction. So things that are the things that you're battling, the things that you don't want to do, how much it helps you grow and develop and it expands your brain, and literally it's a part of the brain that they've already discovered now. It's what basically gives you everything you're missing out on. Does that make sense? If I can sort of word it. I'm not really good with
He's great,
words.
though, David Goggins.
Very great. Very
Navy
great.
SEAL.
And he's one of the guys that made me run from Brighton to London. Wow. You know, like just watching
Thanks, David.
just watching one of his videos.
Wow.
I'm like, cool, I was looking for answers. How do I overcome physical pain? Because I wanted to get back into training. And after being diagnosed by this doctor that I went to, made me lose my hope and my self-belief.
So what did he diagnose you about? Was this about the leg?
It was weird. Like, through all my exam, I went to Italy to get exams. I stayed in the UK to get exams. They couldn't understand why my nerve system kept shutting off my right side of my body. And in fact, it wasn't until like literally this year I've self-diagnosed myself, which it's, I don't know how much you believe in the spiritual side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So you know about demons and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So people can provoke demons into you, or you can indulge in certain things where you can provoke it into yourself. And we call them jinns. As Muslim, we call them jinns, yeah? Demons, ghosts, whatever. They can enter your body, and they can really play around with your body. Does that make sense? Second thoughts, they can position themselves in certain parts of their body. So I went to a reciter, call him like an imam or priest, like in an imam, and he recites verses from the Quran. And when he was reciting these verses from the Quran, my body, my right side of my body started to shake. And then all of a sudden, everything changes. And the demon inside of my body started to speak. And you're laying there, you can't control it. And you can't stop anything that's happening. It's just happening. You're aware of it, but you're laying there, and my body starts to go. And then my legs start to go. And everything that I had experienced throughout my injuries and, you know, the things that I was battling and always trying to find answer to why my right side of my body kept switching off, for me is the jinn, however it was possessed into my body, targets my right side of my body and really abuses it and takes control of it and numbs it at times. Does that make sense?
So when you were saying, did you hear what you were saying or not?
Yeah, so he's reciting. So I'll show you the video. So the imam is reciting in verses from the Quran, which are specifically there to target the jinns and to attack them, because there's many different ways where you can be possessed. You can possess from indulging yourself in actions of evil, or people can be jealous of you and they want to affect you, so they can do things like black magic or juju. I don't know if whatever. What
Yeah,
you're
yeah. No,
familiar with.
I've heard people doing that on people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people can do it on people. You can do it from, you know, even from unlawful relationships as well. Just indulging, you know what I mean, unlawful marriage relationship. You can take people's energy or give people energy. You can get it from listening to music, because it's full of evil and, you know, the sort of music that is going around nowadays. It's all about demons and stuff, innit? So you can indulge it in yourself. You can also, there's many different ways. So I believe a big part of my battle, you know, I remember when I went to prison and stuff, and you have to speak to like what they called, like a psychologist, whatever they called. And he basically said, oh, you got bipolar disorder, because he was like trying to understand me and stuff. And now as I got older, I realized it's not bipolar disorder, it's being possessed or being around demons, is that personality disorder of you changes when the possession of the demons in your body. Does that make sense? And that's the beauty of Islam as well, because reciting certain verses from the Quran, when you watch the video, you'll be mind blown. It really exposes this demon that's in your body. So what happened when the Imam was reciting certain verse from the Quran, my right side of my body started going, and I can feel it, and it was like tingling and pins and needles and go numb.
We'll cut that video into this.
Oh, no, you know what? This is probably the first time I've said it to anyone.
Wow, I think
and
it's
I've told
amazing.
you through, but I don't think I want to show people, because for me it's a bit more personal. I'm still dealing with it. I'm still going through it now. I'll probably put it out there one day to educate people.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm still going through
You're
that
still
spiritual-
exercising the demons.
yeah, exactly. I'm still going through it spiritually, you know what I mean? And it's a big part of it is evil eye as well. You I know how much you believe in evil.
Yeah, absolutely. We got them. We have them. Yeah, yeah.
All the time, and we live with it. You know, and I think that's one of the biggest things that are cursing people nowadays. You know, people envy people. People are jealous of people. So
I mean, it's. I've always thought it's a childish, like stupid emotion, because looking at somebody and hating them for what they are, what they've got, whatever it is, it's just a waste of energy. I've never understood it, why people, and they say about giving you the evil eye.
But you say that because I think you've come out the other side or you've dealt with things, but sadly, majority of the society of the world are not like that. They don't deal with things, so
when I
they
grew
become
up,
envious and they become like jealous.
when I grew up, I always wanted to be off the estate. I always wanted to have money. I always wanted to, I didn't want to be on a council estate on the dole. I didn't want to be there, right? And when I actually got off the estate, and I actually went, oh wow, I did want to get off the estate. I did want to make money. I did want to have a nice job. I did want to buy a car. I did want to have a phone. There was all these things that I wanted, and when I got them, I was like, wow, you can get these things, but you just have to work. And what inspired me was, as you're going through that journey, when you get off the estate, you meet different people. And then when you meet different people, you meet other different people. So if you imagine climbing up a ladder, as you're climbing up the ladder, you're meeting with different people, and some of them are massively up here and some of them are here. And but somebody once said to me this quote, and I love it. And he said, there's always someone fitter. There's always someone unfitter. There's always someone richer. There's always someone poorer. There's always someone sicker. Do you know what I mean? So whatever you are, wherever you are in your life, there's always someone better. There's always someone worse, right? So however bad you think you are, there's always someone worse and there's always someone better. So you can't look at, oh, I'm glad I'm not there and I'm glad, I wish I was up there. You just have to be zen with where you are, and you just have to take a deep breath and go, I'm here today, but tomorrow or next week, I could be there. I might be down there. But you have to just accept your thing. And by putting out that negative energy, it doesn't really serve you. And lots of people, and I believe this, if you spread negativity and you just wish people bad, it always comes back.
For sure.
It always
100%.
comes back 10 times.
100%.
So it's not only are you wasting your energy in your life doing this shit and being mean or saying things about people or projecting that, it is coming back. So it is literally like, I'm going to hate you, but I'm going to get it all back 10 times. And you sort of think, well, if you know that's going to happen, you've got to change your mindset and you've got to try and I think if everybody had that shift where they started to look more in the positive and wish people well, if you come in here today and said, so I've just done this amazing deal, it's made £10 million, I'll be shaking your hand. I mean, Yusef, when you do another one, let me know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I want you to do well. And I want you to tell me how you've done it so I can do it. You know what I mean? Because I always believe you've got to share the love.
You know, one of the first deaths in the world, Adam and Eve was put in this world, right? And they had two kids. Habil and Qabil, I don't know how you say it in English or in the Bible, but they had two kids. It's always in the Bible as well. The first death of mankind was jealousy between two brothers. So Adam and Eve had two sons. One brother killed the other brother from jealousy. So that roots way back. That's the first death. That's how old jealousy and evil eye and all of that goes back. That's the first. The first death wasn't illness.
You thought we'd have learned something. How many years ago was that? You thought we'd have learned something by now.
And that death was caused by who? By the demon. Right. The demon got into one of the brothers' head and said, "Oh, your parents prefer him. He's the better looking one. He's the better one." So what he did, he killed his own brother. And then God sent two birds. One bird died and the other bird started digging and buried the other bird in the hole. So then he knew what to do as humans when we die. He knew to dig a hole and bury his brother into it. And that's where now we bury. Crazy, innit?
Yeah.
So that goes right to
I've
the
had
roots.
a bit of a lesson today, you said.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of things we can learn from each other, man. That's why it's great to do these things. Yeah. I think a big part, like, why I get involved, multiple reasons. I think first thing is I thank God for everything all the time, but the first thing I think I've accomplished why a lot of people understand me or want to get me involved is that people only want me for the algorithm. Let's just keep it real. A lot of people who don't understand me or who, you know, I'm very hard to be relatable or be beside or, you know, keep up with, if that's the word I want to use.
I definitely can't keep up with you on that treadmill. I'm saying you running on that.
But I think you understand, as a successful man as well,
right.
There's not many people like us. And to be on our levels, I feel a lot of us are very solo, isolated people, but very smart, very given. We're very happy.
Do you know what I think the problem is? I think the problem is when you achieve anything, right? You have your successes, but you have your failures, you have your losses. And I actually think as you go through your life, right, people like to focus, again, on the negative. You know what I mean? People don't celebrate the positives. And I think as an entrepreneur, every time something fails, you have to just go, you know, something, it's not worked out. And it's like if you know, I've invested in many things. I had a bar and restaurant once. And I when I was 16 years of age, I actually wrote a list of all the things I wanted to achieve. And one of them, bar and restaurant. And I think I was 31 or 32 years of age when I actually got a bar and restaurant. Right. Wow. So 16 years on, it was a disaster. I actually lost a lot of money on that venture. And at the time I was thinking, why, you know, it was going so well, you know, and obviously when you go through a loss like that, you learn from it. And it was like, well, if I'd have done it, if I'd have got out of it then, I could have made money. But because I stayed in it too long, and I was like, oh no, let's open a chain of these. And you get sort of excited and carried away with it. And then you sort of take you off the ball. And I think that was a lesson. And every person I met, that and you get talking to people and they say, oh, you know, what else have you done? Bar and restaurant. How did it go? And you go, I've done my bollocks. And then they always go, and this bank manager and a financial advisor and a lawyer and an accountant all said the same thing. They said, if we ever have any clients who say, I'm thinking of doing a bar and restaurant, they say, how much money do you want to invest? And I say, put it in the middle of the floor and set fire to it. That's their advice.
Start to do it.
And even people that know what they're doing, fuck it up. Do you know what I mean? So to someone who was green, but it was one of the things that I wanted to do and I wanted to have a go at. And I'm glad I did it. And again, you know, at the time I was unhappy because I'd obviously lost money. But when I look back on it in hindsight, I'm like, at least I know I'm not cut out to be a restaurateur.
Also, you learn a lot of things about yourself.
Absolutely. And there was a lot of positives out of that. Of
course.
So all the negatives of, oh, well, I did an investment, it didn't work out. The actual positives were I met some amazing people. And, you know, if I actually look over that period of time when I had that bar and restaurant, there wasn't really anything else happening at that time. So it did keep me busy over that period of time. Whereas if I hadn't have had that, I don't know what I'd have been doing. But sometimes I think you have to go through these processes.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you have to win, you have to lose, but you have to keep going. Do you know what I mean? You can't ever stop and say, I'm a failure, it hasn't worked out. You've just literally got to get back on that horse and go, I'm going to go again. I'm going to go again. And then it's like, there's a great book called The Luck Factor. Have you ever read that?
I'm not really one to read books, but I would have probably heard of it. I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
What's good about it is it says that in life, when you try something new, you get a little bit of luck, right? And then what happens is you've got to just not get carried away with it because then you fall over. Then you've got to get up and then you have to have another go. Then you get a little bit more luck. And it's like, there's a guy called Dyson who obviously invented the vacuum cleaner. And he has a great quote. And these figures may not be right, okay? But he said, I've been inventing stuff for decades and I've invented something like 49,999 things and none of it's worked. And one of them I got right and I'm a billionaire. So you sort of think most people, when they'd have got to 9,999 would have gone, do you know something? I'm out. But the fact that you stayed in it, and I think that's a lesson that I think what you've experienced and what I've experienced, you have to keep going. You have to keep going.
That's exactly what it is. Like nothing that we do or nothing that we've achieved is what people are looking for. Yeah. It's not. And once you have it, you realize you probably want more, or it doesn't really matter anymore. Yeah. But what keeps you grounded and what helps, and what I realized helped me a lot, is there's nothing out there better than giving charity or giving back or helping someone.
Absolutely.
And another thing as well is like going back to that whole algorithm thing. I feel like that's something that I've mastered and I want to keep mastering because that's the generation that we're in. There's so much positive and negative you can learn from social media. But I'm in that generation where my parents didn't experience it. My kids will know it. I'm like the breaking point. So with the people that are slightly older, you don't understand it. Some of them give it a good shot like you have. You know, I wouldn't see my parents at the level of as you've achieved, you know, with their very similar age to you, with social media, with business stuff. So you've got onto it at a good time. But people my age, they need to understand it. They need to jump on it very quickly. They need to adapt very quickly and not want what you want or what you've achieved or what I've achieved and expect it's going to happen overnight. Because that's one thing that's really setting people up for failure.
I think that's the biggest problem at the moment. People want it and they want it now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to work. They just want it.
Of course.
And it's like, maybe that's one of the other things that's driving the crime, because they get to that point where they go, well, I really want to get that. Well,
or they fake it.
Yeah.
So they make people believe that they've got it when really deep down they haven't got it. And it's so easy to fake things, and then you get caught up into that. You're faking, and then you realize deep inside you're just digging a bigger hole for yourself. Because when it comes to really show what you're doing, it's not really there. It's not.
And a question I got for you, which is unrelated to what we've been discussing, but goes back to when you obviously got remanded in jail. What was you actually remanded in jail for?
Basically, what I got arrested for. I don't want to go into too much details for all the. Yeah.
But it was basically, it was serious enough to get you remanded.
I was at the Old Bailey court.
Right. And then when you actually walked into the jail,
I was on remand.
What was your sort of initial thoughts?
I was excited.
Right.
Very excited. Excited to see my brother. My brother was there, all my mates, all my friends. And
that wasn't really a hardship. It was like, I'm just going to see
no. Look, there was
a holiday.
There was fun bits, there was hard bits about it. The hardest bit about it is obviously being away from your family, being on remand, looking at such a severe case where you're looking at a long time. Is like preparing my mindset. If I did get found guilty, this is what I'll be spending the rest of my 30 years in. Does that make sense? So it was like looking at that aspect, but also the violent aspect. Again, I was very violent in prison, got myself involved in a lot of fights, and all in all, I think the experience I had is probably very different to everyone else. There was tough moments, but also the happy moments, and obviously the moments that now I utilize a lot as fuel, like with everything I do now. Like I said to you, the time I spent in block, no one can understand until you literally, the closest thing will probably be like, just try lock yourself in your bathroom and take everything away from yourself and see how long you can stay there before you walk out. And if you can do 24 hours, then try doing that every day. Does that make sense? Most people won't even do an hour in the bathroom, literally just sat there with nothing. Like right now, out of choice, most people wouldn't do that. They'll lose their mind. So understand the sort of level of adaptation we have to get into and a mindset we have to get into. And even then, I was innocent. So knowing that I could be facing these charges and get found guilty, it's like, what sort of mindset at that young age you have to get into to become acceptance to it and understand that, well, I now have to survive and live in this circumstance, you know? So when I came out, I never took anything for granted, never, like, if anything, when things are going, I push. I really push. So when things are picking up momentum, I don't like losing momentum. Like when things are going, if I make an agreement, if I say I'm going to do something, if I say I'm going to be there, or if I say I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to do it. I don't lose because I've lost time. Even though it's 6 months, but I know what it feels like when someone's control of your freedom. They can open the door and close the door. Does that make sense? Different to having a sentence. Because when you got a sentence, and straight away you think, well, I need to count the days down. When you're going to court and you're sitting at court and you're going to trial.
You don't know what's happening.
Don't know what's happening. So, and you're in this environment and you just don't know how to really maneuver yourself because, again, there's not like a manual book when you go to prison. This is how you get through the days. There's nothing there for us. It's literally you go in there, everyone has a different experience. but you're in a room where I find the best brotherhood there, the best men are in there. Even now when I do the workshops, the best of best people for me, it's like when I go into prison, I find souls that I don't even want to leave. I wish I could just stay there and spend another minute with them just to help them, guide them, give them a bit of strength or, you know, motivation, whatever you want to call it.
When you got out of prison,
Yeah.
and you said you were stabbed 2 times. Was
Twice,
that
yeah.
within a period, or was that
Between the age of like 16 to 18, it happened twice, yeah.
I know it sounds like a fucking stupid question, but what was it actually like being stabbed? I mean, did you actually know?
I didn't
you'd
know
been
at the
stabbed?
time. I got stabbed in my head. You can see the scars there on the side, the back of my head, on my arm, my bum. And
That was all in one go. There was just
2 different times I got stabbed. The first time I got set up. Second time I was involved in a fight. The guy pulled out a knife. I didn't even know he had a knife. The first time I didn't know I got stabbed because I was blacked out. I found myself in the ambulance. So when it happened, I remember I got set up and I got into an altercation in the park. But by the time it all kicked off, I just remember myself. Actually, I remember myself banging on someone's door because I had blood everywhere and I was trying to get help. But then I blacked out and then I remember waking up in the ambulance and then obviously I was like marked up and everything. And when I was in hospital, like, I was then told I was stabbed. The second time I was in the fight again, got stabbed in the head again, stabbed in my arm, and I didn't know. It was just when I was getting away from the scene. I remember it was in the winter. It was very cold, and I felt like I was saying to myself like, "Why is my hair wet?" But it wasn't. It was like all blood. I had blood everywhere, and obviously when I got away, and I was then met up with the people I was with, like, "Yo, you got stabbed," and I'm like, "I didn't even know I got stabbed." Because the adrenaline and because I didn't see the knife at the time and it was just a fight. For me, it was like I got into a scrap and I get away from the scene. When I then met with my boys again, they're like, yo, your head's open. Do you know what I mean? Like your leg, I had a hole in my leg. Like yo, you've been stabbed there, you need to go and get that stitched up. So it wasn't until I then went to hospital and I realised, but you don't really feel nothing when you get stabbed, especially with that adrenaline. And where it was involved, me being involved in the situation where again I could have got arrested for it, it's like I'm not even thinking about me being stabbed. I'm thinking about I don't want to get nicked for this. You know what I mean?
don't go back.
I didn't even want to go to the hospital to get stitched up if it wasn't for my mum. Like there's been many times things have happened and I wouldn't even go to hospital for it because I'd be thinking like if I go to hospital, I'm basically attracting the police. So I could get nicked for this. So that was my experience of being stabbed. I've also witnessed my friend being stabbed and killed. I've had my friend had his stomach split open, half his arm chopped off, and I had to literally revive him. Like,
Was that machete?
Yeah, machete. He got shot out and then they got stabbed and then like literally when my boy came to me, it was like 4 a.m. in the morning after a party and he knocked onto the door. I literally just left him a couple of minutes ago and I've never been a smoker or a drinker. I've never drank or done drugs my whole life. Even though I was involved in that, I never touched it, never took it myself. I always understood that this wasn't for me and I couldn't do it. My body couldn't handle it, especially with how tapped I was already.
Yeah.
And after madness happened in a party that I was at, I remember going home. It was like 4 a.m. in the morning and I told my mates, oh, everyone go home. So everyone's parked off their things and stuff. And then we had that one friend that loved getting high and he's like, oh, I'm just going to go up to the 24-hour shop and get Rizla, which was literally 2 minutes away from an incident that had just happened where we were all involved in, weapons were used and stuff. So we had just got away from doing something. Everyone's gone home. I've gone home, but that one friend dragged another friend to go and get Rizla. As they've gone back close towards the scene where the first incident happened, the guy's come back for revenge and he just chopped. When I mean he chopped them up. I was a few minutes away from my house. I remember I was 17 at the time. My mate comes straight to my door. He's literally leaking everywhere. He's banging on the door. My mum knows I've just come home. Like she's the sort of mum that she ain't going to sleep until all her kids are at home. And I was always a naughty one, always out till late and stuff. And I remember coming home and I've always kept my prayers since I went in prison, yeah? So I remember 4 a.m, this was like summertime. It was getting bright outside, so I prayed Fajr, which is our first prayer. So I showered and my door knocked and I've opened the door and my friend is splat open. just got stabbed, and I was like, yo, where's the other boy who I left you with? He's like, he's on the main road leaking as well. He's been stabbed as well. And I just remember taking like my clothes off and just wrapping him up, like CPR, like I had blood coming out his mouth, and I was literally trying to keep him alive. And he was like, I'm dying. He's like, yo, am I dying and stuff. And then when the police came, they arrested me for murder. They thought I did it because basically right outside my house, they found a big machete that I used to carry, and he had my fingerprints on it. So when he was found basically outside my house, and it was like dark getting light again because it was like sunrise, they basically just searched the whole area, find a knife there, find like my mate on the floor, find me wrapping him up. They didn't know what had happened. Do you know what I mean? We called the ambulance. So instantly they arrested me for murder. And it wasn't until like I went to the police station, I said no comment, they realised there was a trail of blood coming from the main road, and there was my second mate who was found stabbed. Wow. And they were both put to coma. They were in coma for like a couple of months. It was a very severe stabbing situation. It was all over the news and stuff. Wow. So I've seen that side of...
That is probably... that must have been one of the most horrific things you've ever seen. I mean,
Nah. The most horrific things I would have seen was when I was very, very young. I'll say again, like childhood experience. Like, even if it's not just seeing certain things, about knowing and understanding certain things. You know, I feel like things like that, you can see it sometimes, like God can give you that strength. But when it's involving family and involving your mother or involving your dad and involving family members, those sort of things there is like, that will stay in you for the rest of your life. I think things like that, you can't even use the channel no more. It's just, again, going back to what I said before, it's just about the acceptance. You just have to learn to accept that's happened. Now what do you do? Like, you're still alive. You can now make a change for your future.
Did both of those guys die? The one on the...
No, they never died. They were in coma.
Oh,
Never died, yeah. They're fully stitched up. Like, they've got crazy scars. Like, yeah.
I bet they walk about going, oh, look, that's where I got chopped there. And
you know what?
Are they out of life now? Are they out?
No, one's in prison right now.
Right.
For, he got caught with a gun and he got stabbed a couple of times after that as well. The other one, he's trying. He's in and out, just trying. I wouldn't say many of my people, my friends, made it back then. They're either dead in prison or they're still involved in certain thing, which I don't just get myself involved. I don't really talk to them. I've tried giving them hope, try giving them a bit of time, but I can easily cut people out like that.
I suppose the problem is as well, like you said, it's right for you, but it might not be right for them.
Absolutely.
And it's that old saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Absolutely. It's true. No, it's true.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not one to keep doing something. If I know something's no longer for me, I wouldn't say if it's right or wrong no more, because again, I understand when someone says to me, this is all I know.
Got it.
Until they get shown something different, that's what I understand that. And I don't think that's wrong for them to keep doing that, because that's all they know. If you show them something else and they choose to go back, then that's something else. But if they don't know anything yet and that's all they know, I can't say that's wrong. But I know for myself, if something's not for me no more, I just will never touch it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go back there. I wouldn't do it.
And then, you know, like you said, you fast forward from being stabbed. You then get to the point where you've
become a successful PT.
You've got the job in the gym.
In the gym.
You become this like celebrity PT trainer. And then what happened then? Because
I started renting mansions. Right. And from there, it caught a lot of eyeballs on social media. People was like, how is this guy? Those who knew me, those who followed my journey. I started back then, like having 10K followers on Instagram was a big thing. This is a few years ago. Like, Instagram was very hard to get followers, and to have 10K and to be around celebrities with millions of followers and to be training these people was like, who's this guy? I never put my face on it. I started renting mansions, started creating content, started creating videos, training these celebrities, getting them fit, getting them in shape. And the reason why I never put my face out there, because I was always concerned that my past was going to catch up with me. You know, even though I changed, I looked different, I was still worried that my past was going to catch up. And it wasn't until lockdown came in. Lockdown took a massive 360 on my business, because all the personal training businesses were affected, all the gyms were shut. I did the whole online side of thing, but it wasn't for me. So what I did, I went to a supplier who provided fragrances. I was always into fragrances. I like smells. I wasn't a perfumer. I didn't understand how to make at the time. And I thought, I knew how to consign something and resell it on the streets. You know, that's the path I took as a young age. So I thought, let me do something legitimate. So when I get a kid one day that comes up to me and says, how do I stop trapping, or how do I stop selling drugs? I want to do something legit. I'll be like, you're doing it. You're just selling the wrong things. And if you can't afford it,
You sell
haven't got the
these
money,
fragrances, you don't go to prison.
you understand? Or if you're me, you probably get arrested. I don't know if you've seen that video that went viral. I got arrested at Stratford.
No.
It wasn't to do with the fragrance, but when the police are on you, they're on you. They don't want you to do well. You know, even when you're doing legit stuff, they're still on you because they think you're still involved in some way. So they try to catch you up, but there was nothing there.
So what was that about then?
They arrested me for breach of peace. Imagine that. They went down to they couldn't find nothing because my business blew up so quickly and became so popular, and I brought the community together again. Like I had a market store in Stratford. They couldn't put two together. They said, surely this guy is doing something more.
He's got to be selling some contraband.
So they tried to arrest me, and then when it came down to it, the sergeant's like, what are you arresting him for? They just couldn't put anything to it because they realised there was nothing illegal in it, and it was just because I was very good at selling and I built something out of nothing. And it was during COVID. They're like, yeah, breach of peace. And now we're suing them for arresting me at the breach of peace because they arrested me unlawfully. There was nothing there to charge me. And even when I went to the police station, there was no charges after. I got released. I got left out. But whilst I was getting arrested, I had my shoulder dislocated. I was like, I had cuts there from the handcuffs. I was mistreated. There was about 12 police officers trying to arrest me because when they came to ask me who I was and they searched my name, straight away they had their back up, they had their guard up because they knew what could come with arresting someone like me. Straight away there was a backup of like, I'd say 20 police officers, and it took about 12 of them to try to take me out. It wasn't necessary because I was corresponding, but the person who dealt with it clearly wasn't professional enough or experienced enough as a police officer. He just panicked, straight away took it upon his own hands to arrest me. But that video, I leveraged off it. See, it went viral. It looked bad on me, but the flip side, it brought a lot of eyeballs from there. When I started my online business, a lot of people supported it because when people find out the story behind it, they're like, look, let's support him. So my online business started to grow.
So you've called it Bouattoura. And how many different fragrances are there?
So we started off by doing designer fragrances. So when I first started, I consigned the oils of designer fragrances. I had a chemist who basically would turn them into sprays. And then, in fact, we started selling oils in the streets, so designer fragrances oils, which is, some people will call it oud, some people will call it olive-based fragrance. Yeah. And we were able to get designer fragrance inspired smells. So if anyone wanted something that was, high-end, luxury, or expensive, we'll get at a very cheaper price, better quality and longer lasting. Started selling in the streets, literally giving out samples for free, going to every single train station in London, all the street corners, basically showcasing.
Guerrilla marketing, yeah, I love it.
Exactly that.
I love it.
So anyone else who wants to make it out, we're giving them a formula that works. Because if it works, you can work for anyone.
If you try something and you go, I like that, you're going to buy it, right?
Absolutely. And the same way I used to consign, the wrong things, when they liked it, they'll come back for it. You know where to come back for it. So when I hit the streets, I was just giving out samples. And with fragrance, it really targets your emotions, it targets your confidence, it targets the way you feel. When you got a fragrance and you're not wearing it, you feel naked.
So what is this like a parfum, eau de parfum?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so that's...
But now, over the year of doing design-inspired ones, you started to get more familiar with fragrance, so we start making our own collection. So now we have our own collection, which we've tailored it down to. We've come out of our own names, and we've got a name called Second Wife, a very sort of controversial name, a name that will be remembered. But again, that's all marketing strategy, and that's our number one top seller.
Wow. It's
sweet fruity. So anyone who likes sweet fruity smells, Second Wife's for them. The name as well has to in line with the way we market ourselves, because when you're selling something online, the way people consume content, consume things, they look for controversy, they look for something to stand out, they look for something to be funny.
So if you want a second wife, make sure you get on that.
Just don't get caught by your first wife. Don't get caught by the first wife. But yeah, that's how it started. And then once the police thing happened, I got an ASBA. I wasn't allowed to sell in the streets because also I was selling it illegally in the sense where I didn't have the paperwork to sell it in the streets. Didn't have the license. And when I got the license, I was then arrested. And because the case was going on, even though I had all the paperwork and the license to sell it, because there was a case going on, they gave me an ASBA. So when they gave me an ASBA, I thought, cool, now it's my time to put my face out on social media. Because at this point, no one knew who I was. I had a decent following, about 20k followers on Instagram, but no one knew who I was. And I started looking online. I always studied the game from a distance. Everything I achieve and everything I do, there's always a plan, like a 6-month plan. So I looked at social media, I thought, what was hot right now? What's working? What's doing really well? And there was something called Sunday Smoke, which was done by Bouncer and Tyrone, where they'll get 2 random people to settle a fight in the ring. So every Sunday, it was literally a street fight in a boxing ring where if you had any beef or if you wanted to call someone out and you wanted to have a scrap, there will be hundreds and thousands of people tuning in every Sunday and it will grow your profile.
Yeah.
So I thought, cool, let me jump on that. And I went straight to the deep end. 2-day notice, 2-day call out, end up fighting a guy who's just come out of prison. And then all of a sudden, my followers went from like 20k to like 40k. I'm like, oh, this works. Because now those people who are following me, I'm now leveraging off that audience to upsell them something, which was my fragrance brand, which I just started doing it online now. So obviously, because I couldn't sell it in the street, because this whole ASBA was going on and the police.
I suppose they've done you a favour, really.
Exactly. Yeah. They've done me a favour to
the
push
positive.
me. Always. I always look for the positive. And you know what's crazy? When the ASBA happened, me and my brother were in business together and he pulled out because he's like, well, where are we going to sell it now? He didn't have that online mentality. He didn't know, you know, we can leverage off something. We can create something online. So he pulled out and I went straight to the deep end. I thought, cool, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get views. And when I get views, there's only so much I can keep posting every Sunday about my fights. I'm going to create interest that people are going to want to know what I do between Monday to Saturday. At least what I do, I sell fragrances. Come to the studio or purchase it online. And for all the existing customers who used to come to us at Stratford, I always gave them my number. So what I did when the website went live, I just text them the website. People started buying it online. Then I started looking at things very differently. My eyes start opening, my mind started thinking, there's a different world here. There's an online market. There's a high turnover on consumers. There's so many consumers in the internet world. Once you start selling online, you'll never want to provide a service. So remember, I come from a service world. Now I'm selling a product, and now it's an endless product because from a video, I can now make money. And the videos that I make are very targeted towards people, emotion, how they feel about themselves. I use a lot of reverse psychology. I really target, you know, common problems or issues that people face, add a twist to it, and there's an upsell at the end. I never sell because then if you're just selling, it's boring. People know what to expect. People don't want to be sold no more. People want to be drawn in. They want to be mind fucked, and then they want to be sold at the end. And that's my sales strategy, and that's always been my sales strategy when I sell in the street. You know, like when I went to sell fragrance in the streets, you probably want to buy it, but I've got such a big turnover when I sell it in person because straight away when I meet someone, I go to sell something, I target them. Aside from fragrances, I'll probably compliment them, I'll lure them in, I'll ask them a question, and then from there, I will reverse psychology, ask them a question that might correlate to fragrances, and then once they ask me now a question, then I upsell my fragrance. And because I've lured them in, I've built that connection, you know,
So I walk up to your stall.
First thing,
as you sell
you
me,
wouldn't walk up to my
your
store.
second wife.
You
I
wouldn't-
walk past your store.
You wouldn't even walk past my store because
How'd
you
you
have no
know?
interest. You don't even know where there is. A 1 meter by 1 meter table.
Right.
It's the size of this.
Right.
But when I'm standing there, I'm reading. I'm looking at everyone that's walking past. The first person that gives me eye contact, I'm probably complimenting them. I'll say to them, "Oh, where's that jacket from?" Because not many people will be asked that. And you know when you compliment something, people usually wear things or have things because they want to be noticed for it. Or if they are noticed for it, they want to show off. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I target them first. I'll be like, "Oh, where's your jacket from?" I was looking for a jacket like that. Where can I get that from? So when he now opens up, straight away, I will probably apply my fragrance on his hand, gently. And I'm like, "What's that? What are you doing?" "Oh, look, what do you think of this smell?" "Oh, it smells nice." I said, "Look, you're a good looking guy. Have you got a missus?" And he'll be like,
You chatting me up?
yeah or no. He'll be like, yeah or no. If he says yes, I said, "Listen, I've got something for you." I said, "Just don't tell your missus though." Straight away, he's thinking, I've just told you I've got a miss. You tell me not to. I've got a fragrance called Second Wife. Smell this. You like it? But listen, this one right here, just make sure you don't get caught by your first. Right? Oh, you're a funny guy. You're a joker. This is hilarious. How much is it? Don't worry about the price. How much would you spend on a fragrance like this? And he will be like, £100. Oh, mate, £100 too expensive. Well, this is £50 now. Do you understand? And because it smells good and you've created that characteristic approach with him, had a laugh. If he wants to support you, he'll support you. If he doesn't want to spend £50 and £6 a spray, well, look, you know what? Yeah, now I target them even deeper. There'll be 3 sample sizes, a 3ml, a 6ml, and a 12ml. I'll be like, you can't go away without this smell. You know it smells so good. And when you go home and you bring a gift to your wife now, because now I'm targeting him from an aspect of he needs to now feel guilty if he doesn't get something for his wife. Like, listen, you know you can get 3 of these for £30 right now, or 2 of these for a tenner. He's thinking £6. I didn't want to spend that today. I didn't know you was even gonna approach me. I had no interest in buying fragrances. But if you like the smell and now you don't want the fragrance, you don't want to spend £60, but now there's a sample bottle there, you're not gonna say no to it. And then after I can go even deeper and be like, listen, you're supporting a small business anyways. Like, it's all psychological.
Happy wife, happy life.
Exactly. There you go. So it's all guilt tripping in a way. But once they've got the product and it's an amazing product, they will come back. They will tell a friend. So that was the first strategy of how I lured people into it. Correct. I wouldn't say I need to do that now because now the brand is established. Yeah, I've got a fan base or a support base where they just want to support me. And once they try it, they realize it's great. But there's different ways of manipulation you got to implement sometimes to get what you want. You know, and I'm only talking from a fragrance perspective. I've sold many other things. You know?
And obviously you did Banged Up as well, which was massive success.
There you go, which I feel like I played one of the biggest characters on the show. Again, it's had a very positive and negative outcome to it. The negative, I strive off it. I utilize that to my own advantage, especially on the algorithm. I think if you look at my social media, when I get a lot of hate, I actually respond to it. I entertain it. The reason why I entertain it because
when they say something negative, you just like, okay.
Nah, you know what I do? That was good. That was a good one. You know what I do? In fact, you know when you get a supporter and someone supports what you do and you say thank you and you ask them how they're doing, they don't really respond back after that. They'll say you're amazing, you're smashing, and you say thank you, how you doing? They leave it as that, yeah? But you know when you got a hater,
I love it,
and a hate comment, and then you comment back at them, they comment back, you comment back, they at people to comment back.
All day, like that.
And then what happened? The algorithm picks up, because the algorithm doesn't know the conversation you're having. The algorithm all of a sudden thinks this is something that people are very interested with. So what it does, it starts to push that content out there. So for anyone out there wants to go viral, and if you look at the videos that are very controversial or very, you would say you probably want to hate on me, you'll realize I'm getting millions of views on these clips.
Look at Jake Paul. You know, he actually said, I like people hating.
I love it. Most people do. Most successful people do it because that's what we use to fuel us. But now I'm not only using it to fuel me because I don't really care about hate. Like I said to you, like I can turn my phone off. I don't really care about it. I live a happy life. Does that make sense? But if I'm going to have that and I'm going to be on social media, I'm going to utilize it and I'm going to make sure I can really, 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 you know, do the most out of it. If I'm going to use it, make the most out of it.
Yeah.
So what I'll do, I will entertain the haters because they will bring more traction. They will respond faster. They will keep commenting and the algorithm will pick it up and it will push that profile out there. And those smart people will understand about this guy's a marketing genius. And those haters that hate will keep hating, but whilst they're hating, I'm getting paid. Because more followers, more viewers, what's going to happen? When you're on my landing page, I always have something to sell you down the line. You're watching now, you're getting entertained. I'm either going to motivate you.
You might hate me today, but you're going to love me tomorrow.
Exactly that. That's exactly what I live for. Literally, that's exactly what I live for. So again, it's like a 6-month plan.
Amazing. So what you got planned for the next 6 months then? So you've done the TV show, you've got the fragrances, you smashed the PT. What's next?
I'll do everything that makes me feel uncomfortable. That's the first thing. Second thing, I'll just keep bettering myself as a person. I keep learning. I keep enhancing my strength, my inner strength, both from a spiritual way and a physical way. And look, after the Channel 4 experience, a lot of it was acting. You know, some people, you know, like, oh, why are you playing up to be this character? You're not anymore. You've changed your life around. But we live in a society where people are entertained by drama and problems and all of this. That's what gets the view. That's what gets people appealed. If something's too positive, people can't relate to it because they're negative, so they swipe up. So I gave people what they wanted to see. Yeah. Now I've got them on my end, and they realize, yo, this was all an act. It was acting, and it was doing it for the camera, and it done really well.
Yusef, all he wanted to do was sell me some aftershave.
That's what he wanted to do. Literally. So now the opportunities are becoming endless. The things that I'm doing are great. The impact is there, but I want to give acting a good try. Yeah, you know, that's the next thing. Also with my training, I take it at a level where people will probably think the way I train, I should have been an athlete, or I should have been, you know, some sort of elite athlete, or whatever you want to call it. So I like fighting, so I want to keep up with the boxing as well. These are things I want to keep growing into. And I've got other businesses, which I don't speak about, which I've got business partners in. And it was those life experiences and the things that I've done back then which helped me now to be founders and co-founders of other things, which I'm really good at. So I want to keep growing that low-key profile of having multiple businesses and making investments, keep growing the social media place, because I know the importance of social media. I know the positive impact it can have as well. And that's literally it. Just keep staying uncomfortable. Yeah. Even when life gets comfortable. So when life gets uncomfortable, we don't feel uncomfortable, innit? I think that's about it.
No, amazing. Yusef, it's been really good talking to you today.
Yeah, you too, man.
And it's been
we connected really well.
You know, but it's just good. Yeah. It's good hearing about your story. It's good hearing about your thoughts. And it's great. And as I said, I think the inspiration is where you've come from and where you've gone. And, you know, like you said, you could have easily gone the other way.
I did go the other way. I just decided to do something different. Yeah.
So it's good that you've channeled that, and it just goes to show. I think definitely for anybody that's, you know, had a similar life to you, similar upbringing to you, or is in a similar situation to you, even whether they've got a parent, whether they've got one parent, whether they've got no parents, you know, I think you're an inspiration and a role model to those people to say, well, actually, however shit you think your life is, there is hope. Exactly. And I'm proof of that. And, you know, you've kind of given out, you know, the faith, the hard work, the this, the that. And you know, people can either go, well, I'm going to take a page out of Yusef's book and have a go, or not. But I think to hear your stories, it's an inspiration to those people that would. And I've always said this, you know, people from the working classes that are underprivileged, they need to be told they can achieve. They need to be told that just because you're there now doesn't mean you're there forever. Do you know what I mean? You can actually, if you want to make that change, you can. So, of course. Appreciate you coming on.
You too, Terry, man. Thank you so much, brother. Yeah, appreciate it.
So thanks for tuning in to the Criminal Connection podcast with Yusef, aka Chubbs. I wish you'd have told me that in the beginning. Make sure you check out his fragrances. Make sure you check out his Instagram page. He's definitely an inspiration for anybody on a cancer estate, or anybody that's you know, thinking they're having a hard time. He has absolutely smashed it from zero to hero. So make sure you follow him on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week where we've got another really exciting guest.